The shocking truth about the brutal end of Jesus' 12 apostles. You want to believe what happened. In the shadows of history, a spine-chilling tale lurks, one whispered for centuries but never fully revealed. Each of the 12 apostles faced a brutal end, shrouded in mystery and tragedy that could shake even the most hardened believers. Imagine this: one of the closest followers of Jesus, Peter, was crucified upside down, pleading for mercy even in death. His body twisted in pain, a stark reminder of loyalty gone horribly wrong. And then there's Andrew, his brother, bound to a cross where he preached for days, turning the instrument of his suffering into a pulpit. Did you ever consider that some accused Thomas of treachery? It sounds unbelievable, but in the dim light of betrayal, he was stoned to death, a victim of suspicion. The stillness of that dark moment shatters the idea of brotherhood. James, the son of Zebedee, found himself beheaded, his last breath mingling with the cheers of a bloodthirsty crowd. Every apostle's end is a gory spectacle, filled with torment and anguish. Oh, but that is just the tip of the iceberg. Think about how the mysterious Judas Iscariot met his fate. The betrayer's infamous 30 pieces of silver turning into a chilling story of suicide. He hung himself, his body left to decay, a fitting end for one who turned on his friends. And what of the others? The rumors swirl around each horrific account like swirling smoke, drawing in everyone's imagination. Could there possibly be more to uncover about their last moments? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. But wait, as death loomed, dark secrets floated like shadows in the corners. What hidden truths lie behind their tragic endings? A chilling realization grips you: were these men truly punished for their faith, or was there something deeper, darker, lurking just out of sight? Was every gruesome twist of fate part of a larger plan? And who, or what, was truly behind their suffering? As the echoes of their martyrdom fade, a chilling question remains: what really happened after the last breath? As whispers swirled around the fates of the apostles, a shadow loomed larger still, a force that twisted their lives and deaths into puppets of divine fate. The implications weren't just haunting but terrifying. Were these men mere victims of their own faith, or were there clandestine forces at play? Imagine Thomas, the ever-doubting soul, trembling as the stones flew. Each impact was a deafening crack against the fragile fabric of trust. Did he question the loyalty of those he once held dear before his own life slipped through his fingers? A chilling gasp erupted from the crowd, as if the very earth beneath them gasped in horror. Meanwhile, in the darkness of a candlelit room, stories of Matthew's last moments emerged. They said he died in Ethiopia, preaching the gospel until a ruthless ruler silenced him forever. But was it just a violent reaction to his faith? Or did a traitor hide among his followers, scheming his downfall? The uncertainty wrapped around the truth like a vice. As screams of martyrdom echoed from town to town, the more vibrant the tales became. There was Simon the Zealot, who was flayed alive, his skin peeled back in cruel mockery. The sight was enough to send shivers down the spine of even the boldest souls. What was it that drove men to violence? Was fate worth such unbearable pain? The sheer brutality of their endings begged the question: what drove the apostles onward? The imagined warmth of a living Jesus? Or was it the fear of the wrath awaiting those who turned away? These brothers were bound by an unbreakable thread of courage and unyielding devotion that beckoned them to face horrific ends rather than renounce their beliefs. John, the beloved disciple, met a different fate. While others fell to violence, he was exiled to the remote island of Patmos. Yet, even there, among the crashing waves and relentless winds, his spirit remained unbroken. As the stars glittered above him, one could almost sense divine whispers urging him to share secrets yet untold. Did he know something that would change the course of history? Mysteries lurking beneath the surface of his writings. His heart raced with the urgency of a man who had seen too much. And the nagging question hung in the air. Had there been an invisible hand orchestrating these events, a puppeteer thrilled by the chaos of faith, betrayal, and ultimate sacrifice? Was there more to the gospel than mere words? Those who believed had to ask themselves what lay beyond the veil, in realms they dared not imagine. Then came a chilling revelation: not all deaths were simply ends. Some transform into beginnings, dark and twisted though they may be. The world had become a stage for power plays, simmering conflicts, and hangings in the shadows. What if their deaths were openings to an even greater story, waiting to be unlocked? So, as the last echoes of their sacrifices faded into the night, the question loomed ominously: what dark secrets remained buried in the dust of history? And were we truly ready to face them? In the shadows of the past, a flickering candle cast uneasy figures on the stone walls. John's heart hammered against his chest like a war drum. Patmos, this forsaken island, held him captive but also cradled mysteries in its rocky embrace. He felt a pull, a whisper that echoed in the wind, hinting at truths he had yet to unveil. On a sleepless night, the waves crashed like an endless wrath against the shore, a relentless reminder of the world beyond. It pushed him to the brink of madness, fueled by thoughts of his fallen brothers. Each death seemed a thread woven into a larger tapestry, one that begged to be deciphered. What was that unseen force manipulating their fates? Was it God or something far darker? The voices of the past invaded his thoughts, vivid and sharp. Peter's roar as he defied denial. I would die for him. The sheer intensity of that moment stirred something deep within John. But the images morphed. What if it was all a sick game, someone lifting the strings, manipulating their resolve? Flashes of betrayal slashed through his mind. What if Thomas had harbored suspicions that could have saved him? The doubt that gnawed at him, was it born from guilt or caution? Every brotherhood has its fractures, and John couldn't shake the feeling that someone among them had sold their trust for power. Suddenly, he was gripped by the terrifying idea that their shared faith had been their own undoing. An echo of laughter, cold and devoid of humanity, seemed to dance through the air. Who stood to gain? The thought left him reeling. It was not just enemies at play but perhaps allies turned traitors, wrapped tightly in the guise of brotherhood. Taking a deep breath, John fought against the rising tide of despair. There was more to the story, hidden within his own heart, waiting to be penned in ink and blood. The urgency clawed at him, like the wild winds demanding to be heard. Did this silent island harbor the key to salvation or doom? He scribbled furiously, channeling the tumult of emotion surging through him. Words flowed as if commanded by an unseen force, revealing visions of fiery hope mingling with dark premonitions. What would he uncover if he traversed deeper into this vast sea of inspiration? Would he find clarity, or only further chaos? As he paused, a rustle in the distance jolted him. His pulse quickened. Was that the wind? Or something more sinister? The shadows of nearby rocks danced in the flickering light, and he sensed a presence, something lingering just out of sight. Heart thumping wildly, he shouted an unholy prayer, begging for guidance, and then he saw it, a figure emerging from the darkness, cloaked in shadows, eyes glimmering with unsettling knowledge. John felt the warmth drain from his body, replaced with a chilling recognition. What secrets could this figure hold? Was it a messenger or a harbinger of greater strife yet to come? As the figure stepped into the light, revealing a face that sent tremors through John's resolve, he understood this encounter might unveil the terrifying truth he had sought all along, or seal his fate forever. With every fiber of his being, he braced himself. What was this figure's purpose? And what revelations would dawn as a result of their meeting? Would he unravel the truth or unleash horrors beyond imagination? The figure loomed closer, shrouded in dread and anticipation. John squinted at the face now fully illuminated by flickering candlelight. The features were grotesque and familiar, blurring the lines between nightmare and memory. It was Judas. His eyes held a darkness so profound, it seemed like they drank in the very light around them. John. Judas' voice curled around John's name like smoke, heavy and oppressive. You question the bonds of brotherhood. But look at what you've written. Look at your heart, buried under guilt and suspicion. John recoiled, shaking his head. You, he spat, voice trembling, you dare return to haunt me with your betrayal. A cruel smile cut across Judas' face. He stepped closer, the shadows seemed to writhe around his body, as if the night itself sought to shield him. Betrayal? Or enlightenment? What if I told you that truth lies in the ugliness we hide from ourselves, waiting like a beast to be unleashed? John's heart pounded, a relentless drum signaling danger. You chose greed over faith. You condemned us all. Adding a sinister tilt to his lips, Judas narrowed his eyes, glittering like shards of broken glass. Did I? Or was it merely a path to the truth? All of your brothers were pawns, John. Every move was orchestrated. Do you not see? The words pierced through John's defenses, etching seeds of doubt into his mind. He struggled against it, pushing away the insidious whispers curling around his thoughts. Confronting betrayal was one thing, but facing the depth of conspiracy was another monster entirely. "What do you want from me?" John demanded, clenching his fists, ready to summon courage where there seemed to be none. Judas spread his arms wide, as if inviting John into darkness. "To show you the way. The truth buried beneath ashes of sacrifice. I hold the key to what you seek, a revelation that binds the lives of your brothers and the salvation they chased in vain. Will you walk this path with me?" The idea chilled John. A part of him wanted to refuse, to shove aside the shadows of his past. Yet, another part fuzzed with adrenaline, the promise of truth loomed tantalizingly. He saw in Judas not just a traitor, but a reflection of his own doubts and fears, a confrontation of the vile places into which faith could lead. "Tell me," John said, his voice barely above a whisper. "What is it that you know?" Judas leaned in closer, breath low and raspy. "Come learn your brother's true fates. Discover how their ends were written, twisted by the very hands that clasped in brotherhood. All will be revealed, John. But beware, not all truths are meant to be embraced." A pulse of dread seized him. What was he willing to confront? What sinister truths lay hidden beneath the surface? John felt the weight of his choices pressing down, an ocean in his chest. Suddenly, a sharp noise shattered the tension. A distant crash echoed from the shore. Ice coursed through John's veins. Had they been discovered? Was danger closing in? Before he could think, he turned to see shadows moving along the beach, dark silhouettes against the moonlit night. Panic seized him. What is happening? Judas merely smiled, knowing too well that they were not alone. Beware the betrayals yet to come, John. The darkness you seek may be closer than you ever imagined. With that, he slipped back into the shadows, leaving John reeling, caught between shadows and truths. The figures on the beach grew clearer, and John's heart raced. What were they? Allies or the next rounds of betrayal? The fragile line between understanding and devastation blurred in the rising tide of chaos. As he braced himself for confrontation, the chilling question hung in the air: was he ready to confront the monstrous realities, or would those revelations shatter him forever? The darkness around John pulsed, alive with fear and uncertainty. He desperately scanned the beach, his breath quickening as he fought to make sense of the encroaching shadows. Each silhouette appeared twisted, each movement betraying a malevolent intent. Were these figures disciples of darkness or remnants of his fellowship, now lost to betrayal? He could hear the muffled whispers floating through the air, echoing like distant thunder. "We found him, he is here." They were drawing closer. John's stomach knotted, dread sealing him in place. He thought of Judas, of his words wrapped in poison like a velvet cloak. Betrayal yet to come. "Stay calm," he whispered to himself, though the tremor in his voice betrayed a torrent of panic. This had been his nightmare, disciples turning against one another, friendships splintering under the shadow of betrayal. The air thickened around him, the scent of salt mingled with something far more putrid, the scent of distrust and whispered lies. From out of the dark, a figure emerged, face obscured by a hood. John's heart hammered, a relentless warning against the tightness gripping his throat. "Who are you?" His voice sounded weak, trembling like a thread in the storm. The figure stopped, pulling back the hood just enough to reveal sharp features illuminated by the moon. The face was familiar, another companion he had once trusted, Thomas. "John," he breathed, eyes wide with fear. "You've got to listen to me. They are coming for you. They know." "Who?" John's voice escalated, desperation spilling out in panic. "What do they want?" "For your blood, for the truth you hide. They want to cleanse the sins of the past, John. They believe you've stolen something you shouldn't have." Thomas's words spilled like a broken dam, urgency spanning the distance between them. A harsh laugh interrupted, slicing through the tension. "Steal. Or reveal." Another figure emerged, Matthew. His eyes glinted with hidden anger. "You think you hold the answers, John? You think you're the righteous one here? Enough." The command rang out, a voice cutting through the confusion. It was Peter, face hardened by pain, stepping forward into the light. "This isn't the time for infighting. We need him. Need him." Matthew's voice dropped with disdain. "You mean needed him?" His heart was the first to falter. John felt his stomach churn, dread constricting around him at the tension gathering like a storm cloud. "What does that mean? What have I done?" "Not what you've done, but what you've become," Matthew retorted, inching closer. "You've allowed your doubts to blossom into a twisted reality. And we're the ones left to face the consequences. With each accusation, John's defenses crumbled further, the mantle he had worn growing heavier. I'm trying to uncover the truth. The truth men have died for. Judas's voice echoed, returning like a phantom, circling John with a predatory finesse. Shadows danced in the moonlight as laughter punctured the air. They hunt you for what you are about to reveal, John. You slip further into darkness. But know this, revelations can bind or shatter. The ground beneath him shifted. Chaos rippled in the air while nightmare visions flooded his mind. His brothers turned enemies, hunting him, chiseling away at the very foundation of trust. As the figures closed in, shadows merging into one another, a singular thought flashed in his mind. The dark truths they chased could unravel everything he held dear. Run. Thomas suddenly shouted, breaking the tension like glass shattering. The warning blared through John's mind, urging him forward as he dashed across the sand, heart pounding, overwhelmed by the weight of secrets unraveling in the dark. His thoughts raced. Could he embrace the truth lurking within the shadows? Would it lead to the salvation or doom of them all? The crashing waves echoed his heartbeat, each step weighed down by the burden of unanswered questions. He knew, deep down, that even if he could outrun the attacks of betrayal, he could never escape the truth waiting for him, looming like thunder in the distance. What still lay ahead? Would uncovering the darkest secrets bring forth liberation or unleash a horror he was not ready to face? The pounding of John's heart seemed to sink with the crashing waves, each thundering step heavier than the last. As he sprinted across the sand, the darkness enveloped him, shadows writhing and twisting like serpents hungry for his downfall. He didn't dare look back, for whatever pursued him was relentless, fueled by vengeance and betrayal. Don't stop. Thomas shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos. We have to reach the cliffs. We can't let them catch us. Breathless, John pushed harder, adrenaline coursing through his veins. The unfamiliar terrain of the beach became a blur, the familiar and trusted sanctuary now transformed into a labyrinth of dread. The cliffs loomed in the distance, jagged and foreboding against the moonlit sky. But with every stride, he could feel the darkness creeping closer. It was no longer just the fear of the figures behind him, it was the suffocating realization that he might be the very reason for their wrath. What truth had he been privy to that now painted him a target? I didn't do anything. He gasped, trying to convince himself as much as anyone else. Suddenly, a figure darted from the shadows, a blur of darkness. John barely had time to react as a hand shot out and grabbed his arm, yanking him backwards. He stumbled, briefly losing his balance, and landed harshly on the sand. Let go of me. John shouted, struggling against the grip. He squinted up into the dim light, the face revealing itself as Peter's, eyes wild with fear. John, listen. Peter's voice was urgent. We need to stick together. If they catch you alone. They heard the shouts in the distance, growing louder, echoing off the cliffs like ominous thunder. The figures were closing in, those he once called friends becoming phantoms of his own making. They want to understand, John. Matthew's voice rang out, his silhouette visible against the moon. You think you're saving us? You're the reason we are all in danger. John's chest tightened. How had their bonds turned so fragile? This isn't about me. He yelled back, his voice cracking. This is about finding the truth before it destroys us all. A brief flicker of doubt crossed Peter's face, but it was quickly replaced with a hardened resolve. Then we'll find it together. But first, we have to get somewhere safe. Without skipping a beat, the trio took off again, adrenaline fueling their flight. But the shadows were relentless. John could hear their footsteps thudding behind him, every crunch of sand beneath heavy boots like a countdown. Do you still think there's a way to salvage this? Thomas asked, barely keeping pace. I have to believe there is. John shouted, his voice a raw thread against the looming dread. If we stand together. Judas's voice boomed unexpectedly, echoing through the night like the cry of an approaching storm. He emerged before them, flanked by other figures. The chilling grin etched on his face sent shivers down John's spine. You've never been further apart. You're destined to fall. Chaos erupted as the figures surged forward, shadows morphing into human forms hell-bent on retribution. The air crackled with tension, and John felt rooted in place as dread pulled in the pit of his stomach. Fight! Peter yelled, pulling John back to reality. We have to face them. Their breath mingled with the salty air, lungs gasping for fresh clarity amid suffocating fear. With each second, John's resolve grew stronger. The truth bathed in shadows could finally break free. But would they find strength in unity, or be undone by the very secrets that haunted them? As the shadowy figures advanced, closing the line, John could only wonder how deeply the roots of betrayal ran. Could they ever really trust one another again? The cliff edge loomed ahead, and a thought flickered through John's mind: was there a way to reclaim their future without losing everything? But as the darkness thrummed around him, an uneasy question lingered: what other truths lay hidden in the shadows, waiting to awaken? John felt a surge of panic as Judas's men pushed closer, their faces a warped reflection of the friends he once knew. Each step they took blurred into a cacophony of muffled curses and scuffed sand, the air thick with impending doom. He could see fear dancing in Thomas's eyes, while Peter clenched his fist, a churning storm of emotions beneath his skin. "Get behind me!" Peter yelled, stepping forward, ready to fight the growing darkness. "You're not taking him." John's heart raced. "No. We can't split up." He grabbed Peter's shoulder, fear gripping him tight, but it was too late. The shadows collided into them like a violent wave. Suddenly, fists flew. Peter swung wildly, connecting with the first figure charging in. It felt surreal, almost dreamlike, the hard crack of bone against bone, the flash of anger lighting up the grim darkness. It was as if their world had imploded, and the echoes of their friendship turned to a brutal dance of survival. "Thomas! Get John out of here!" Peter yelled amidst the chaos. "No. I want to leave you," Thomas cried, but the desperation in his voice only deepened the confusion. More shadowy figures poured in, surging like locusts. The air vibrated with violence, the thud of bodies hitting the ground, the choked grunts of exertion. John looked frantically for a way out. He couldn't just stand by while betrayal masked itself as fury. "John!" A raspy voice called from the fray. It was Matthew, his face slightly illuminated. "You need to face what you've done." "What I've done?" John shouted back, confusion twisting in his gut. "I'm not the enemy here. In your pursuit of truth, you brought this chaos." Matthew's voice quivered, wavering between anger and fear. "You think they'll listen to your side when they think you've betrayed them?" John's chest tightened. The accusations hung around him like shackles. What had he uncovered that could turn faithful friends into dark enemies? It struck him, painful and sharp, their fears were rooted in a misunderstanding, a twisted perception of loyalty lost. Could he piece together the puzzle before it was too late? Determined, John's eyes darted around in search of an escape route. He wasn't going down without a fight, without shattering their misconceptions. He had to make them see. "Listen to me," he begged, raising his voice above the chaos. "Remember our oath. We were supposed to uncover the truth together." A momentarily stunned silence ensued, confusion flickering across the faces of the figures closing in. John seized the moment. "If I had something that threatened you, wouldn't you want to confront it too? We can't let fear destroy us." Judas laughed, a low rumble that shot through the silence. "Fear is what brought us here, John. You're clinging to the past, and it's time to face the truth. Belief binds, but it also blinds. It's too late for redemption." The grimness in his words reverberated in John's mind like a death knell. His echoing doubts raced within him. Could they truly overcome the shadows of betrayal? Or had they sunk too deep into the darkness, all trust obliterated? With resolve burning brighter, John jumped forward, ready to grab hold of hope, to fight for everything they stood for. But just as he lunged, an appalled scream erupted from Peter. John turned just in time to see a shadowy figure raise a weapon high, poised to strike. "No!" John shouted, his heart crashing against his ribs. In that heart-stopping moment, the world slowed. Would he reach Peter in time? Or was this the moment the threads of their friendship truly unraveled into the abyss? The weight of history hung in the air, thick and suffocating. And as the night thickened, a sinister realization dawned on him: maybe the darkest battles are fought not with fists but with the very truths they seek to hide. Yet what happened next would reveal a shocking twist he never anticipated. A deafening silence swallowed the chaos for a moment, as the collective breath of the fighters hung in the air, heavy with anticipation. John's heart thundered in his chest while he stretched every muscle, propelling himself toward Peter. The weapon hovered above him, glinting ominously in the dim light. "Peter! I'm coming!" John roared, desperation fueling his every step. As he dove forward, time resumed, adrenaline surged through him, igniting a fire in his veins. The figure paused, confusion flickering across shadowed features. It was just a second, but it felt like a lifetime. John could see Peter's wide, terrified eyes, then the crack of the weapon coming down. No! John screamed, his voice a primal cry pierced by sheer terror. He lunged, arms outstretched, fueled by raw instinct. He tackled the attacker just in time, the two men crashing to the ground in a violent heap. The weapon slipped from the figure's grip, skittering across the sand like a harbinger of doom. Pain bloomed in John's side as he wrested the opponent's arm to the ground, but he barely felt it. All that mattered now was rescuing Peter from the brink of destruction. With a burst of strength, he flipped the figure over, locking eyes with the face that was once so familiar. Judas, he breathed, recognition clawing at him. The betrayal struck deeper than any physical wound. John! Get off him! Peter's voice shouted from above, bringing John back to the present. His senses sharpened, he could hear the scuffle around them, how their friends fought against shadowy figures now becoming indistinguishable in the chaos. Matthew was there, grappling with another former ally, while Thomas swung wildly, desperate to protect them all. It seemed that fear had taken permanent hold over the group, twisting their bonds into dual aggression. Judas, what have you done? John demanded, anger igniting the space between them. You saw the truth. You turned your back. Judas sneered, gasping beneath John's weight. You think you know the truth? You are the blind fool, John. You. His voice cracked, filled with fury. You destroyed this for all of us. Fury snapped in John's mind, a flash of clarity ignited. No. You're trying to tear us apart. We were meant to be a family. And then, the blue of Peter's eyes wide with horror and pain shattered something deep within John. Peter, hold on. With one swift movement, he shoved Judas aside, scrambling back toward Peter. The ground felt unstable beneath him, a tremor of fear coursing through their surroundings. But there was no time to dwell. A swirl of shadows loomed close as their former friends continued to fight in a tempest of desperation. Get up. We need to move. John yelled, pulling Peter to his feet. He swiftly checked for injuries but couldn't afford to linger. Behind them, Judas stood, eyes blazing with hatred. Run. Matthew shouted, eyes darting between the fray. We can't stay here. They're lost. But John wouldn't abandon them. No. We can save them, John. Enough. Peter's voice cut through the chaos, cutting deeper than any blade. They've made their choice. We have to get out before it's too late. The truth struck like a cold wave. What if they couldn't save everyone? What if betrayal sealed them all into darkness? Heart racing, John clenched his fists. Deep down, a flicker of hope remained, battling against despair. With one last look over his shoulder, shadows swirling closer, he took Peter's hand. Then we will have to make them see. They surged through the chaos, determination igniting each step. But just as they turned a corner, a figure loomed in front of them grinning, shadows dancing across its face. Leaving so soon? Judas called, voice smooth as silk, icy as a predator ready to strike. Get down. Peter shouted, instinctively pushing John to the ground as the air crackled with danger. The confrontation had only begun. With Judas at the helm of darkness, would they find a way back? Or would the echoes of betrayal finally tear them apart for good? With a heart full of hope yet shrouded in fear, John understood one thing, the fight for truth had only just begun. In an instant, everything shifted. The crushing tension of the last moment exploded as Judas lunged forward, his hand darting out with an unexpected ferocity. John barely had time to react, instincts honed by recent conflicts kicking in at the last second. He rolled to the side just as a blade sunk into the ground where he had been a heartbeat earlier. Stand back. Matthew shouted, slamming into Judas and catching him off guard. But Judas was quick, twisting away with a snarl, slashing again, and narrowly missing Matthew's throat. Stand together. Peter screamed, rallying the rest of their friends who were scattered, lost in a frenzy of violence. As the shadows swirled and thronged around them, it was as if they had become adversaries in a horrific game. Old friendships were reduced to a savage struggle for survival. John scrambled to his feet, heart pounding in his ears. He felt the weight of despair creeping back, a suffocating presence around his chest. He had to shake it off. Lives depended on their next move. Where is Thomas? John's voice was barely above a whisper, panic flooding him anew. In the chaos, he hadn't seen his friends slip away. "I'm here." Thomas emerged from the fray, clutching a metal pipe like a lifeline, his eyes wild. "I thought I could break through the line." "Not now." John snapped, urgency bubbling in his veins. "We have to stick together." We pushed toward the exit. Together, Peter echoed, the weight of their situation heavy on his shoulders. With one fierce nod, his eyes locked onto John's, and they grasped each other's hands tightly around them. The fighting escalated. Voices shouted over each other in anger and fear, sharp breaths mingling with the distant, guttural cries of the fallen. Shadows danced menacingly, and the air was thick with the metallic scent of betrayal. "Let us go," John urged, dragging Peter towards a side alley, frantically looking back to see if anyone was following. A knot twisted in his gut. What if they were too late? Just then, the shrill sound of struggle erupted from the darkness. It echoed through the alley like a death knell. John hesitated, the weight of indecision pulling him in two directions. A part of him wanted to keep running, another part, however, felt it was their duty to fight for those who had strayed. "John. They need us," Peter shouted, sensing his hesitation. "We can't leave anyone behind." With clenched teeth and racing thoughts, John sprinted toward the noise, adrenaline surging once more. As they rounded the corner, they were met with a shocking sight. Judas was backed against the wall, held at bay by the desperate but determined Matthew. "You think you can turn us against each other?" Judas spat out, eyes wild. "You'll see the truth soon enough." In the flicker of dim light, John's heart sank. Judas's words felt like a curse. This was the moment they had fought against, a moment where allies became enemies. "Stop!" John shouted, desperation tinging his voice. "Look at what we've become. Don't let him win." For a heartbeat, time seemed to slow. The raw emotion of John's plea hit everyone like a tidal wave. They all stopped, held captive by the truth of his words. But then, Judas smirked, the fight still alive in his eyes. "You're too late. There is no salvation. Only chaos." As silence fell, punctuated only by heavy breathing, betrayal hung thick in the air. Thomas's fingers drummed nervously on the pipe, while Peter stood firm, unwavering. The tension strained their fragile unity as they awaited the next move. But before they could act, another group of figures emerged from the darkness, their eyes gleaming with hunger. "Looks like the games are just starting," a low voice hissed from the shadows, sending a chill down John's spine. With hearts racing and the walls of their world closing in, John's mind scrambled for a plan. They had to make a choice: fight or flee, and time was running out. Would they find a way to reclaim the truth? Or would the night swallow them whole, leaving nothing but memories of a shattered alliance? Pain roared through John's being as the tension reached the zenith. Shadows clashed, revealing the scars of trust that marred their bonds, bleeding into the darkness, threatening to consume them. "We can't give up," he shouted, voice echoing off the cold stone walls of their battlefield. With each breath, he felt his brother's hopes and fears intertwine with his own, a suffocating net of anguish and unity. Peter, Matthew, and Thomas stood resolute around him, their eyes sharpening with determination. "We have something to fight for," Peter declared, a beacon of hope amidst the chaos. "These shadows can't break us." Together, they all echoed, forming an unbreakable circle of strength. But Judas's laughter pierced the air, a wretched sound that made John's stomach churn. "Together. You think that binds you? Your hearts are twisted by betrayal. You're caught in a web of your own making." "No." John countered defiantly, stepping forward, the weight of betrayal heavy on his shoulders. "It's in confronting the darkness that we reclaim our truth. We can't let fear dictate our fate any longer." The onslaught of shadowy figures surged again, shadows of their past, the very specters of betrayal cloaked in familiar forms. In that moment of clarity, as chaos descended, John felt the power shift. A flicker of something bright sparked deep within him. Fight. Fight for your brothers, fight for your beliefs, but most of all fight for the truth. He yelled. "Haven't you learned?" Judas sneered, a knife glinting in his hand. "Truth will be your downfall." But John's resolve flared. "The truth is our salvation." The ground shook as they surged forward as one, a tidal wave of determination crashing against the darkness that sought to consume them. With a roar, Peter charged at Judas, his fists connecting with the betrayer's jaw. The impact sent Judas sprawling backward. "This isn't just about you anymore. This is about all of us," and we won't let you tear us apart. Matthew and Thomas flanked Peter, fists flying with every ounce of pent-up frustration, every moment of division fueling their strength. They were fighting not just for survival but for the very essence of their shared journey. As shadows melted into chaos, John felt the tide of rage shifting. He pressed forward, the adrenaline fueling him with clarity. Remember our oaths. We vowed to stand united. Realizing that courage was born from vulnerability, he turned to Judas. Look into our eyes and see what you've missed. We are bound by faith and friendship. You can't turn us against each other. Suddenly, a change flickered in the atmosphere, and for a moment it felt as if the weight of the past lifted, replaced by a sense of hopeful potential. Each strike, each shout rang louder, covering the echoes of despair, reaching into the heart of darkness that had so long imprisoned them. With every shadowy figure they faced down, the truth began to unfurl, a truth shimmering even in the bleakest night. As they fought, John felt bonds shifting, reshaping themselves in the burn of conflict. Together, they roared, a powerful mantra that pulsed through their veins. The storm of their struggle began to break the long-standing barriers erected by doubt and fear. Enough. Judas screamed, fueled by rage, as he fought unsuccessfully against the tide of hope. Each movement he made, pushed further back into the darkness. The final confrontation seemed imminent, and yet, John's heart pounded with an unfamiliar rhythm of resolve. Judas, this is your last chance. Choose the path of redemption, not destruction. Judas faltered, eyes flickering with uncertainty, then slammed his fists against the ground, the weight of their brotherhood pressing down upon him. He was bound to darkness, yet whispered emotions hung in the air, deep-rooted belief that even betrayal could end in redemption. Why can't you see, Judas? We are stronger than betrayal. John shouted, stepping closer, unwilling to let fear dictate him any longer. The past lay strewn around them, each shadow a reminder of what had been lost, but also a beacon of what could be reclaimed. The figures looming at the edges began to thin out as bursts of light pierced the darkness, reflecting choices made and untold possibilities waiting to unfold. Judas's gaze wavered, a flicker of insight threading through the chaos. What if I'm not the monster you think I am? Then join us. John urged, the weight of hope galloping through his heart. Join us in embracing the truth. Do you remember who you were without this darkness? In that moment, trembling on the precipice of ultimate betrayal and unbearable redemption, Judas hesitated, the shadows wrestling with his essence. He stood between two worlds, the choice to illuminate or obliterate. Yet, the forces of uncertainty bubbled just beneath the surface as he made his decision, a haunting blend of fear and past mistakes swirling within. Eliminate the light, he whispered, surrendering to darkness like it was an old friend. No. Peter shouted, but it was too late. Shadows surged forward. The night thundered, resonance shaking through the air like a call to arms. And somewhere, beneath that looming devastation, John's heart echoed through as he summoned the last fringes of hope. We choose truth. The battle erupted in a clash of fury and belief. Sorrows unfurling and ambition soaring, side by side, they clung to their brotherhood, finding strength within their unity. Struggling together, they pushed back the encroaching shadows, a testimony against despair, a testament to faith renewed. And in the crucible of pain and passion, they discovered that betrayal, once a dark cloud spreading ominous thread, could give rise to a sunlit horizon. It was here they found a new beginning, where the shadows began to dissipate, giving way to a flicker of hope breaking through the devastation. Let us rebuild, John breathed, heart racing but now with fervor, optimism sparkling in his renewed spirit. With the remnants of their choices drawing them closer to redemption, they began to piece back their fractured lives, pledging to carry forward with love over animosity. Together, they proclaimed, hearts solidified under the weight of their commitment, one that could withstand any storm, any shadow as long as they stood side by side. That bitter night faded into dawn, the echoes of their struggle burning brightly in their memories. They vowed to become warriors of truth, defenders of faithful bonds, forever intertwined in a tapestry of unwavering loyalty. As the sun rose, the shadows slinked away, a promise renewed in the calm light of day, a testament that, even in the face of betrayal, unity could rise from the ashes of despair. Now, if you felt a connection to these incredible stories, don't you dare miss out. You need to subscribe now, so you never miss another exclusive tale that grip your heart. Smash that like button to help the channel grow, and make your voice heard. Flood the comments with your thoughts and theories about everything you've just witnessed. And don't wait even one more second, share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this mind-blowing conclusion. Your support makes all the difference, and only true fans understand the importance of standing together in this amazing community.